All wings report in.
HouseDog, standing by.
MotherGoose, standing by.
Lock S-foils in attack position. Animal Squadron ready for battle.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Animal Squadron podcast. This is your hairiest host, MotherGoose. Today, sadly, your co-pilots have gone missing, but my good friend Joshua Rictor has joined us today.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? This is the all right. I want to break the curtain real quick. This is the first time I've ever heard the title
Hairiest
of
host.
the podcast. Dude, this is amazing.
Thank you.
This is amazing.
Thank you. So, I'm MotherGoose. We got our HouseDog. That's my buddy Mac. We started this back in like September 2020.
Oh man.
And then we actually just brought on a third host, our boy Lowtech Tuck. We joke that he's been a Minoc, just like attached to our ship the entire time. That finally like snuck his way on board.
He finally got the screen time.
Exactly. But everyone, don't worry. They're both okay. They both just had work trips, and they will be back soon. I didn't kick them off the ship, I swear.
This is not an Among Us situation.
I am Among Us. So today we're going to be talking about our favorite lightsaber designs. This is one I'm super excited to really get into. Man. But before we do, Josh, why don't you tell everyone how did you get into Star Wars? What are some of your maybe tell someone your favorite Star Wars projects, your first one that you watched, really dive in.
Okay, all right. So it all started I probably have the most basic origin story of this, but it all started. My dad sat both my brothers and I down, and we watched A New Hope.
Nice.
And we were just hooked, hook, line, and sinker at the from the very beginning. And so we blasted through 4, 5, 6. Eventually saw 1, 2, and 3, and so that basically the love for Star Wars grew. I kind of started off being the person where I was like 4, 5, and 6 are the best, no question.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo 1, 2, and 3. But over time, I've come to love 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Which has been really funny. And just the more I think about it, the more I see what you're trying to go there. And I love that it's getting elaborated in as far as the future shows.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if we want to start with the hot take yet, but my favorite Star Wars project is Andor.
Ooh, it is a good one. I'm not gonna lie, not one of my favorites, but I understand why people love it.
Yeah, so I think it's just because and you kind of know my sensibilities, especially since we went to school together, and we've had these conversations off air, on air, everywhere.
Yeah,
and it was. So for me, what I love the boots on the ground feel, and I always knew Star Wars had that capability of doing so. It's called Star Wars for a reason. Mm-hmm. So I was always I really liked Rogue One, problems and all. I've always loved the war
aspect,
the clones.
Of it.
That's always that aspect has always been my favorite. What Andor did to show, all right, here is literally ground zero of everything that's happening, and then from the writing to the acting and everything down. I think after the Andy Serkis episodes, that arc, that's
what really clicked for me too.
That's where I was like, I think I like this more than Empire.
Ooh.
I kind of feel crazy for saying that, but that's how I'm feeling. And then how they stuck the landing for season 1, I was just like, I think I'm going to say it. And so that's my favorite project. Empire Strikes Back has always been in high regard for me.
Yeah.
So it's I'm starting to find all the things I love about Star Wars, but Andor and Empire Strikes Back are just on a completely different level for me.
That's really awesome. So my co-hosts, I actually quit watching Andor before the Andy Serkis episodes. They were begging me. They're like, "Come on, you just have to watch a couple more." Yeah.
Okay, so what made you like not all the way into it?
I think for me, it just felt a little slow, which I wouldn't change it in any way, because I think the whole story that we're given in season 1 is really good, and you need time to develop characters and motives and everything. And so when it got there, it was fantastic. I think it just, like I said, it just felt a little slow at the beginning.
I don't blame you. Like I definitely does feel that way. Episodes 1 through 3,
Yeah,
for sure. So I'm kind of happy they released all of those like all at once.
me too. Yeah,
And it's just for, it's like, hey, here are the first 3, and then you're just come enjoy the ride with us.
yeah, for sure.
But I love the like almost jab, hook, undercut feel of the show.
Yeah.
Not undercut, uppercut. Yeah,
For sure.
I'm directionally challenged. So,
So let me ask you this, because what was your first Star Wars film you got to see in theaters?
Force Awakens.
Really?
Really? Yeah. So I never got a chance to watch any of the re-releases in theaters.
Wow.
So Force Awakens was the first one.
Okay,
So to me, Force Awakens is very special for that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's really awesome. The reason I asked is because me and all my co-hosts we all had the exact same story of our very first one was episode 3 with our dads. Like, very specifically,
Really?
our dads took us out of school to go see the movie.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just a funny coincidence. And I was like, you know what? If anyone's going to share this, it's probably going to be Josh.
Yeah. So yeah, surprisingly for me, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
I mean, I was focused on different things, so we just never got around to it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. You know, I never asked my dad, but I'm pretty sure he snuck out to watch episode 3. But but none of my brothers and we ever did. But at that point, we were hooked on the Genndy Clone Wars arcs, and then and then the Dave Filoni Clone Wars a couple years afterwards. And so we, no matter what, we've all been hooked on Star Wars to the point where like my brothers and I are texting, it's like, did you just see Clone Wars? Like, we're going all like deep dive into Clone Wars, to Rebels especially, until I just kind of ran out of time. But Star Wars is very near and dear to my heart, just because, like, I mean, we both met at school. We both wanted to make films. I definitely think for me, like 80% of that is because I watched Star Wars at such a young age and have that great feeling with my family.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't know. So that's one of my favorite things, is just getting to talk to Star Wars fans and like finding out what it really means to them, because it's so impactful. Yeah,
it's in its own way, and each person has like a special way of like, oh, I generally watched it with the original trilogy with my family, but then there's some, it's like, no, I grew up with the prequels. And that's how I bonded. And then there's some that's going to be, well, I grew up with, at like 20 years from now, I grew up with Mando. I grew up with the sequel trilogy. And being able to kind of just like connect on that level, I think is such a sweet moment in time.
Yes.
For sure.
Also, to our listeners, Josh did not disappoint. He's got his Mandalorian hat on, a Mandalorian shirt on. Yeah. He had to. He knew. He came prepared. Yeah. Well, you ready to start talking about lightsabers?
Let's do it. I think it's been like 20 minutes into this episode, but yeah, let's
yeah, you know, sometimes you kind of listen. Yeah. If there's a show for tangents, this is the one.
Oh, buddy, and be prepared for a 3-hour episode. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, right. So I will start us off just like all of our other top 5 videos. We each or not videos, each of our top 5 podcasts, we've each brought our top 5 and some honorable mentions that we're going to be talking about today. So my number 5, this is really hard. I actually hate that we have to only do 5, and I made the rules. But I'm going to go with the Temple Guard lightsabers from Clone Wars and Rebels.
Oh, dude, that would be on my honorable mention. That one totally escaped my memory.
Okay. I know we're talking about lightsaber design specifically, but like just the vibe of the temple guards and like how like in unison they are, their armor looks great. And I bring up the armor because the lightsabers match so well. They fit so well.
Yeah, no, like if you're going to rank off the aesthetic of the lightsaber, everything else has to get included too.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but that temple guard there is just almost when you see it ignite, it's just like this esteemed priority.
Yeah.
With the guard, and it's like, okay, when they ignite, nothing else matters. Like it's strictly business.
Yeah, and okay, so in we don't really get this in Clone Wars, but in Rebels we got the like folding version that we also see. Dark Ray has in Episode 9, where it's two lightsabers kind of pointed the same direction, and then you can flip it to make it a double-sided lightsaber. I love that so much.
It's of such a unique design, but it's really solid.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this already, but the coloring of the actual lightsaber matches so well with the like yellow blades.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when they were doing it in Rebels, when they're going with the backstory of the Inquisitor, and with the Temple Guard, it's just, oh man, it just works so well.
Yeah, and I was actually watching the Temple Guard or some episodes of the Clone Wars within the last couple days, specifically with the Temple Guard in them, and I was specifically looking at the hilts. I don't think the like flipping design was there originally, and so my first thought was, oh, there's contradictions, and then I'm like, not necessarily. They could just have had them unfolded the whole time. Like, just because we don't see that in Clone Wars, to my knowledge, doesn't mean it's a contradiction.
Filoni loves to add context. Later on. It's not necessarily a retcon. It's just, oh, here's what I also get to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that exactly within the design, that makes sense.
And I've got some photos up. Really, and even most of the Clone Wars Temple Guards have their hands covering where that fold would be anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of my absolute favorites. What do you have for your number 5?
Number 5, Darth Maul.
Oh, good.
I'm sorry.
It had to be on here.
Yeah, it had to be on here, but more importantly, it's the entrance. The entrance where you get one, like especially Phantom Menace, they're teasing just one lightsaber.
Yeah.
And then when you get to moment, the other side lights up. 6-year-old me, boom,
Same.
like mind blown.
I only remember a little bit from my very first watch through of Episode 1, and that is one of the moments.
Yeah. So, and also how Ray Park just maneuvered with it. Like it was it's a forceful weapon.
Yeah.
And I think it fits Maul perfectly to have that, and especially when you go into the Clone Wars arc of things.
Yes.
It's just it's so perfect to have something so, like, for lack of a better word, like obtuse. It's a giant staff.
Yeah.
But it's the fact of like the swift movements, but it's almost like the powerful samurai, but who's kind of having the strength of a British broadswordsman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's just that blend together. But oh man, it had to be on the list for me.
Something I really like about it is it's very simplistic, like the actual design of it.
Oh, it's literally the same thing each way, and then it just connects in the middle.
But like, I think there's beauty in that simplicity.
Yeah,
because it's you're focused more on Maul. You're focused more on like the fact that it is a double-bladed lightsaber, and this is the first time we're ever getting to see it. And like, I think it just fits perfectly. I think if they'd gone with a more intricate design, like for say the Jedi Temple Guards, I don't know. I think it would have stuck out a little bit instead of like blending it all together into this one like uniform design.
Yeah, and I think what I also love about it is that Maul was using even the hilt as part of the weapon.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it was giant for giant's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a purpose in using it as a blunt weapon as well.
Yes, and the fact that like even when it's cut in half, he can still operate at least one side. I can't remember. Do you know, does his lightsaber have 2 or 1 kyber crystals?
I think I want to say Clone Wars answered that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I am not the greatest historians when it comes to this, but I'm pretty sure if it was cut, one side was able to be used.
Yes, I know. So I know for sure one side can be used. I just can't remember if the other side also could be used. Because I know for a while
Not
he's
100%.
using one half of his original lightsaber and the dark saber for a while.
Yeah.
I am literally on episode 8 of season 7. Like, I'm just an episode or 2 away from like watching that again.
I love season 7 of Clone Wars. Wasn't the biggest fan of the little mini arc in between, but when they got to the Siege of Mandalore,
yeah,
it is peak Star Wars.
Yeah. So okay, so that's the arc I'm watching right now, and like, we don't have to go too deep into it, but I actually, I'm enjoying it more than I remember I did.
So I was in awe, and I think it just hits. The last episode hits perfectly for me.
I agree.
And that's where like, oh yeah, like you've seen it already, so I'll spoil it a little bit. It's just the whole Order 66 angle, and I love this recontextualization that happens.
Yeah,
and then you see like, oh, here's Ahsoka's like reaction to it. Here's Rex's reaction to it. And then like how Maul escapes, and then what happens to Mandalore, and now with Mandalore season 3, like that adds more context to it, so it's very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, sorry. While we're on a tangent, I have a quick question. We're talking about lightsabers. What do you prefer in terms of kyber crystals, and specifically the red lightsabers? Legends lore or the new Disney canon lore?
Ooh.
The synthetic Legends versus the bleeding canon.
Oh man, I see both.
Yeah,
I understand the argument for both. I think personally, I love the fact that like if you're a Sith who is manipulating how the Force can be used, it makes sense that you're manipulating the material of the kyber that is being used to ignite the lightsaber. So to me, I think the bleeding hits more on a spiritual level of Star Wars, rather than synthetic. But I also totally understand like why they did synthetic and Legends lore.
Yeah, I agree. It was one of those things where I was so mad about at first, and then the more I thought about the change, I was like, wait, I really like this, especially when you add in the whole like purification of the blood crystals, turning it white. I don't know. I just really like it.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of things where I didn't like it at first, and then I thought about it, and I literally had to force myself to think about it and like think about whatever it is. I was like, okay, I actually like this part, so if they take it in this direction, I'm actually going to really like it.
Yeah. All right, you ready to move on to our number 4?
Let's do it.
Great. So I have Dooku's lightsaber.
That's my 4 too.
Okay, cool. It always happens. There's always at least one where people line up. Well, great. We can kind of just talk about this together.
Look, Curve Hill will always make it.
It's so cool, right?
Yeah, it's so elegant for the backstory that Count Dooku has, and just like coming from a high class like area before high class like society before going down to be like with Jedi, and then eventually moving on to Sith. To me, I would have not put this on my list, or it would have been an honorable mention until I saw Tales of the Jedi.
Yes.
And the blue lightsaber with the curve hilt, it is glorious.
Yes.
It is so beautiful to look at. But just having it just perfectly encapsulates Dooku.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that like a lightsaber, again, not necessarily connected to design, but it also is heavily connected to like fighting style and just the way Dooku fights with it. It's so unique from other Jedis. I love that it's inspired by like classic fencing. You know, the more like parry and jab.
But even in like the Clone Wars episodes, I love the fact how Dooku fights. It completely like almost imitates fencing or like medieval like swordsmanship, kind of like a Rob Roy kind of style, starring Liam Neeson. And so I love that aspect about Dooku.
Yes, and I love the like silver and black coloring of it. I love the way he holds it. This man is always elegant with his saber.
Yeah, so he'll like start up here and then go back down, and it's just it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
and even when Christopher Lee was using it, it was.
I mean, the perfect actor for Dooku.
Yeah, the perfect actor for Dooku.
Yeah,
you could not have asked for anyone better.
I also it's so hard to describe in an audio only medium, but like the little like tip that comes off, the like metal bit that comes over on his saber. Again, it has such a unique design that it really sticks out from other sabers.
Yeah, completely sticks out, but it also just goes to show, like, no matter what, if I were to close my eyes and immediately open and you show me that hilt, I can tell you exactly who it is.
Yeah.
Like, it is so synonymous with not only Star Wars, but Count Dooku specifically.
This is one, so like, the Jedi Temple lightsabers, I definitely felt like was a 5. I love the design, but it's not really unique to anyone, so I feel like it's not as powerful. Dooku's lightsaber, honestly, I just put it at number 4 because it could have been 4, 3, 2, or 1, and I just was tired of trying to find a right spot.
There is a clear, I feel like for starting with Dooku's, there is a clear tier of lightsabers.
Yeah. You know, and it's part of that thing of the prequel trilogy, and like George Lucas did not disappoint in terms of lightsaber designs. We were talking about Maul's. Dooku's is so unique. I mean,
yeah, we got a few others like on my list. Like, I love the design of this, but I love the fact that like it's supposed to be a functioning society, and so I love that there's different variations of just how lightsabers are made, like Jedi in their prime, the Republic in its prime, and so you start to see the different flourishings that happen as where things can like interact and change, and we're seeing that we saw that in Mandalorian season 3 with like just the functioning society of Coruscant,
right? Yeah,
and just to imagine, like, man, that's like literally if the United Nations just threw up in one area, and just you're getting all these different cultures and ideas, and then you go, what if I did this or that, and then that breeds kind of the innovation and just the different variety that's there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just so good, and you're completely right on the like. It makes it feel more real, because in a real, like specifically talking about lightsabers, if this were a real world, people would have different lightsabers, because there's so much like individualism in just like people in general.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that it just screams Dooku.
It screams Dooku.
Whether there is a blue crystal or a red crystal in there, it is Dooku.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about blue crystal. Did you play the episode 3 video game?
Long time ago.
Yeah. Did you get to play the multiplayer like fighting game that was attached to it, where if you were the second player, you could have blue saber Dooku?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, "Oh, what happened to what's with that?" And then now in Tales of the Jedi, you get to see that fulfilled.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice. It's nice that it's come full circle.
Yeah. Very full circle. I also love the contextualization of Dooku in Tales of the Jedi. It's he's become one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, period.
Yeah.
After what they did there.
I think
I was texting my brother, it was like, it has no business being this good.
Yeah, I know. So my dad, he's not a big animation guy. He doesn't really like animation, but he loves Star Wars. And so I told him, I was like, listen, you just need to watch these 3 episodes. You don't have to watch anything else, just these 3 Tales of the Jedi episodes with Dooku.
What did he say? Did he love them?
He did. He really enjoyed them.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, my dad loves drawing, so like the animation thing was never just a worry with us. And plus, I also think we grew up at the right time as they were announcing them all. So, like, we've all been like fans of it. But I was the latest in my family when it came to Tales of the Jedi. I just never got around to watching it because it came right when the peak of Andor, and I only had like one show to watch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You will not stop me from watching Diego Luna, period.
Right.
And so, and so, I finally got around to watching it before a trip, and I watched it glued, just absolutely glued. Loved the Ahsoka arc, but the Dooku arc had me captivated.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if we get more Tales of the Jedi, or even a Tales of the Sith, I would really like at least a couple more episodes on Dooku from the transition of where he is at the end of Tales of the Jedi to where we see him in the beginning of Episode 2. I definitely see the connection between the two. I just would like a little more.
My personal hope with Dooku is that we get one more episode, and it ends 5 minutes before Anakin and Obi-Wan get to him, like during the Battle of Coruscant.
That would be nice.
And where like do we see Dooku being such a free thinker when it comes to like, hey, this is right, or what the Republic doing here is wrong, what this senator is doing wrong, and he's taking of resources, you're hurting other people, and like, does he become almost a free thinker by the time it's like, all right, why are we in this war? This is basically gone on for way longer than anyone could have imagined. And obviously, I'm pretty sure Palpatine did not tell him the plan at all that he was going to get decapitated by Anakin right at that moment. But like, I would love to wonder what's going through his head during the Battle of Coruscant, which is still one of like my favorite sequences in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree. All right, you ready to move on to our number 3?
Number 3, let's do it.
All right, I have Obi-Wan Kenobi's how do I phrase this? His episode 1 lightsaber. I was gonna say original lightsaber, and then because I was thinking, okay, chronologically it's his first one, but then also original, we see his other lightsaber first. So yes,
the OG Ewan lightsaber is what I'm hearing.
So this one has just so much nostalgia behind it because I'm not gonna lie, I'll be honest, this was my first lightsaber toy. Was this lightsaber, and I played with that for probably thousands of hours.
Yeah, so mine was the Obi-Wan hilt, but a purple lightsaber.
You know what? Actually, now that you bring it up, mine had a purple lightsaber too.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. There's just like it's sleek, and it's very clearly inspired by Qui-Gon's lightsaber. But the almost like mace-like end on it makes it really stick out. And I really like thinking about it. I really love that. Like, so Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan's lightsaber is very inspired by Qui-Gon's, but then it comes again full circle to where Luke's second lightsaber is very inspired by Obi-Wan's. Yeah.
Yep.
But no, I think black and silver is just such a nice color combination for lightsabers.
And especially at the time where he had the braid at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then he had like the very light beige like outfit. So the black and silver kind of pops off, and then the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid lightsaber. So sadly, it did not make my list, but that was an honorable mention.
Nice. And I really like the handle of it, like where you actually hold the lightsaber. It's so like defined. Yeah. You've got the black on one end.
Very ergonomic.
Yeah, with the silver stripes, and then on the other side you just have a wall of silver. It looks like a handle, I think, more so than any other lightsaber.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't know. And again, just like, so I don't know about you, but like I would play with it like a lightsaber as a kid, but I would also flip it around and like use the mace end to hit people with. I was a violent child.
No, so I'll give you a fun story. So, I grew up in Orlando. So a couple times we went to Star Wars weekend. This was back in the day. So before Galaxy's Edge, before Disney and Star Wars was even like ever a thought. So basically, they had it to where all the kids could spar Darth Maul, Vader, and all that fun stuff. Well, I brought my lightsaber.
Nice.
Now, granted, all my friends and I, we were doing lightsaber duels all the time.
Yeah.
So this thing was beat to death. like it was purple, and one plastic part was white because it was about to break.
Wow. Nice.
And so my dad's about to start recording. I'm about to spar Darth Vader. I go to whip out my lightsaber and it doesn't come out.
Oh, no.
Because the plastic part got messed up. So I had to go and pull it. Just like, you get it. And then so as my dad tells the story, you see Vader doubled over laughing at me because this kid's pulling out some like archaic like cane almost. and then I went after him, but yeah, that I love that lightsaber.
Yeah.
My first ever toy lightsaber. It was wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what do you have for your number 3?
Okay, the more I think about it, the more I like it. It's I didn't expect it to be on my list, but it's Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
Okay, yeah.
And I think it just perfectly captures the character of Kylo Ren. So I love that there's exhaust ports and like it's not the full efficiency of what the prequel lightsabers were. It's this kind of weird Frankenstein amalgamation.
Yeah.
And like of the hero worship of Vader, and so like and then you get this broadsword, almost this archaic feeling to this lightsaber. And I love how they choreographed Adam Driver using it, and then whoever his double was, whose name escapes me at the moment, but I love the fact that it was treated like a broadsword. And I love the exhaust coming out of it. It was such a unique design. I love the chaotic feel of the blade. I know for a lot of people this probably doesn't make anyone's list, but I just think when it comes to how it fits the character, the design, and to me, just like the visual aesthetic of it, like it had to be in the list.
Yeah. So okay, this will be a really weird note, but the like single red wire that sticks off from the exhaust ports that goes down to the handle, such a nice detail.
Yes. I love the detail. So you know that like it's like he has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
And like not even just like in the moment, but just repercussions of his actions. And so I love that you have no choice but to focus on that red wire. And so it's like, and we all have the innate thinking of, ooh, loose wire, not the greatest thing.
Right.
And you go, oh, but that perfectly is Kylo Ren. That's perfectly Ben Solo, where no idea what's going on. Like you're learning from Snoke.
Yeah.
There is no Sith lore. There is no Sith community, obviously. There's nothing there. You're on your own. It's like, it's not going to be a situation of, oh, I know exactly what a lightsaber, a Sith lightsaber that is supposed to look like. And then on top of that, the whole bleeding of the crystal, and it perfectly captures the character. And that's something I just value tenfold.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. The reason his crystal's unstable is because something went wrong when he was bleeding it, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought, which again, like you were saying, just really encapsulates his character. Yeah.
There's obviously we can talk about what the sequel trilogy was or what it wasn't, or like what we all hoped it would be. I may not agree with some of the decisions they've made with Kylo Ren. I think the lightsaber they could not have done any better.
I completely agree. And, so something we say on this podcast almost every episode is like, your Star Wars is your Star Wars. You are allowed to like what you like, and you are just as allowed to dislike what you dislike,
Yep.
We talked about a lot about how Star Wars has essentially become a restaurant. There's something for everyone on the menu. You're going to like something on the menu, but that doesn't mean you're going to like everything on the menu.
So it's an incredible version of Golden Corral is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Star Wars is cinematic Golden Corral.
Exactly. That is our tagline for the episode.
Yeah. You just have it in your cover art for the podcast. Is Star Wars is Golden Corral. Period.
Exactly.
Yeah. Quotation marks Josh Rictor. Quotation marks the the podcast.
I think the last thing I want to point out about his lightsaber is what a cool lore pool about the unstable kyber crystals and lightsabers, because I don't know about you, the first time I ever saw that was in The Force Unleashed. You had the option to have unstable crystals, and it was so cool to see it on screen.
Oh, yeah. I love the fact that... So I never made that connection the first time I saw the Force Awakens trailer. Until like a couple people mentioned it, I was like, "Oh man, that was like core memory unlocked moment for me."
Right.
But when I first saw the trailer, like I love like the deep blue like forest area. You see the snow, and then boom, you just see the lightsaber ignite. Like first the blade, and then the two side parts of it. Oh, and the sound, the crackling nature of it, almost like, well, if we go back to Golden Corral, just hearing something like salmon crackle on the back pan in the kitchen, the seafood area, that might have been way too descriptive.
No,
let's not ask any more questions. But like that crackling was just so delicious to listen to, especially in theater.
Yes, I also love the memes of like, the original trilogy had single-bladed lightsabers, the prequel trilogy had double-bladed lightsabers.
And then we got triple. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're just living in the like best time, really, to be a Star Wars fan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for a moment we had no Star Wars to some Star Wars, and now
multiple projects a year. Yeah.
Sign me up.
For sure. Well, before we move on to our number 2 picks, do you have anything else?
No, I'm ready to get on with number 2.
Great. My number 2 is the Darksaber.
I swear, Elijah, neither of us talked beforehand what our list was going to be. The Darksaber's my number 2 as well.
Hell yeah. It's so cool. Okay, also, real quick, I am going to just do a Mandalorian Season 3 spoiler tag here, because I feel like talking about the Darksaber, we're going to kind of get into it. So if you haven't finished Season 3, maybe skip ahead like 10 minutes.
That's a guess.
Yeah.
It might be 30.
It might be 30. The vibes of it, the lore behind it, the story, the like just Mandalorian's devotion to it in general, like it's all so good.
It also just centers around 3 different shows. Like it's become such an important aspect of not only Star Wars culture but the Mandalorian culture. Like I love what they did talking about Taz Vizsla and the Clone Wars arc of it all, and then how like Maul took it, and then Sabine and Bo-Katan took it, and then ultimately what we get to in Season 3 of Mandalorian.
Right. Yeah.
It's like Dooku's. It's elegant, but it's 100% Mandalorian. I think that's what I love about it. It's so unapologetically Mandalorian.
Yeah, and the fact that like, I mean, it's black. It's the only canon black saber that I know of. It looks like an actual blade, which is just so unique. And like I love the fact that George Lucas was just like when they were making these episodes was just like, yeah, a metal sword shouldn't be able to block a lightsaber, and like that's how we got the Darksaber. It's just like, oh, we've already animated this, we need a quick fix. And then it became something so integral to the Star Wars story.
Yeah, I love the white outline around it. It's so fun fact, it's Ashley's favorite. Like,
honestly,
saber.
a good pick. It was really close to being my number one.
To where it's, I occasionally will go look at it. It's like, okay, are any of the lightsaber making companies are they in stock of the Darksaber? And I will look at it occasionally, and then my wallet cries out for help. But then I have to take care of that.
Yeah.
But I love it. But it goes back to the what inspired Star Wars, what inspired George Lucas. So I love that we get a heavy Kurosawa feel, because the fact that there is a legitimate blade to it, rather than just like this glowing beam of light.
Okay, sorry, small tangent. How do you feel about the lightsaber blade theory? That normal lightsabers have a blade like the Darksaber, but they're just producing so much light it looks like a circle. And that's why we get times where it does cut through things, and then other times it's like someone's hitting someone with a baseball bat.
You know, I am all in favor of what services the story and what aids our poor VFX artists. So I can go either way. I can see it being. The funny thing is, ironically enough, this has to get answered by James Mangold's film.
Yeah.
The Dawn of the Jedi, but I'm not surprised if it's just let's call it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like it personally doesn't affect me either.
Gotcha.
Way.
I also like the chainsaw theory, which is pretty similar. Just instead of a full blade, it's literally a plasma chainsaw.
Did you ever see the one physicist that's like, I'm going to build an actual lightsaber, not Hacksmith, which that one's a lot of fun.
Yes.
But
no.
But the guy back in the day, I believe he is a Japanese physicist, and he basically was kind of thinking of almost like magnetism with the plasma.
Oh, okay.
If I remember right. So it would always be coming back, like kind of like a chainsaw.
Yeah. Now
it requires so much power, so it was never portable. So it actually did look like the Ralph McQuarrie version back in the day.
Gotcha.
Of what Luke's lightsaber and that being connected was all about.
Yeah.
But to me, that it also just makes sense that the Darksaber is it doesn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And it has just this little bit of lining to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's such an ingenious design to have it as Taz Vizsla being the first ever like Mandalorian truly. And like, of course, that's what the design of the saber would be at that point.
Right. Yeah. The black saber with the primary, like the black saber with the white outline to the black hilt with, more of, white detailing just looks so good.
Yeah, it looks so good. So, all right, let's bring up Mandalorian season 3. Are you sad that it's destroyed?
Yes and no. I'm sad it's destroyed, but I understand the purpose of like the Mandalorians have become too dependent on it, and it kind of needed to go.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay that it's destroyed. I don't like how it was destroyed personally.
Yeah,
but
it kind of just got crushed.
Yeah, I feel like how with the Darksaber, like that's my microcosm of Mandalorian season 3 is like, I like the decision. I think that's the correct decision. Like, and if I was a creator on Mandalorian season 3, I would make that decision.
Yeah.
Now, do I like how it went there? I not really. I would have done personally a different way, but I still think overall it's a good decision to just get rid of it.
I think what would have made it a little better for me is if Bo-Katan's hand had also been broken.
Oh, I can see that. Like, because this man literally crushed. So the lightsaber, the hand, his hand,
right?
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that was the only thing that I was just like I liked it, but I was just like, how is her hand okay right now?
Yeah.
My personal theory is that Grogu is going to take the Kyber crystal from the Darksaber and create a new lightsaber from it.
Yeah, I hope they do that angle, because one does not simply become Mandalorian by not being Mandalorian.
Sorry, my cat.
Huh.
So I have these, sound panels everywhere.
Yeah.
She's on. I've got a futon up here. She's on the edge of the futon. She reached all the way up as far as she could to the top of one of the sound panels and just slowly pulled it down off the wall.
Hey man, the cat got the high ground.
She got the high ground. Anyway, sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, so I just went through a mental journey of thinking about your cat like on the high ground. It's over. But so I would love that theory with Grogu. I don't know what they do with Grogu.
Yeah.
After season 3, and I think that's something where, unfortunately, I kind of wish they took another year with Mandalorian season 3 to kind of iron out.
Yeah. Well, I think a large part of it is I'm not even sure Grogu was supposed to come back.
Yeah, so I've had to do this mental gymnastics where I have to remember the 2 episodes in Book of Boba Fett
that you have to watch.
Mentally add them into season 3.
Yeah.
And so that's where the season does become a bit stronger for me, because I think if you started with Return of Bryce Dallas Howard's episode in Book of Boba Fett, and that was episode 1, I think you're like, okay, this is an amazing like episode. And then if you go with that episode and then going back to Bo-Katan, I think it would have wrapped the whole Mandalorian story.
Yeah.
A little bit better, just because it's like, oh hey, you have to remember that the clones are just as much of Mandalorian history as a Mandalorian is.
Yeah.
And I think what Filoni and a lot of that creator group has done is like they've really added so much awesome context to clones, to which part of me really wish that would have been in the lore a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, do you have anything else on the Darksaber before we move on to some
I do not.
honorable mentions?
May the Darksaber rest in peace.
For real. Okay, so just real quick, my honorable mentions are Ezra Bridger's OG lightsaber, the gun lightsaber.
Oh.
Again, another one.
That's a dang it.
That's another one that I hated. I hated so much. I'm like, lightsabers aren't supposed to be guns, but when you actually watch the show and you're like, oh, it makes sense. He's trying to hide that he's a Jedi.
It functions really, yeah.
Qui-Gon's lightsaber had to have
classic.
I literally, they're so similar that I was like, I want one on my list, and I went back and forth, and I finally decided on Obi-Wan's, but I still have to throw it in here. Yeah. Maul's lightsabers here because, I mean, again, a classic. And then this one hurt because Ahsoka is my favorite Jedi, and so I've got her lightsaber.
I love that take.
I have her lightsabers here on an honorable mention. I wanted to put them on my number 1 so bad, and then I was like, they're cool, but if we're talking just aesthetics, separating from characters, I don't know if they're my favorite.
I totally understand that dilemma. So my honorable mention, my big one, was Anakin's lightsaber.
Yeah.
I was like, it's the
lightsaber, right?
Yeah, it's the lightsaber, but I do love it. I love the fact that it's just the random flash handle from the old film cameras.
Right.
And I was like, I have to like respect the history and put it on there. The one I thought about was Asajj Ventress was on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Genndy Kit Fisto when he ignites it underwater.
Oh yeah.
Just because I don't know what it takes to have a waterproof lightsaber, but I am all ears.
That arc is one of my absolute favorites from his Clone Wars.
Yes.
I I don't know. It's the
Which
one
to
that I
get-
remember most as a kid.
And to learn that it's finally over in Mando.
Yeah, right? And they've made peace.
I was like, yeah, great. I'm all for peace here. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry, I just brought up a picture of Kit Fisto's lightsaber. I love how Gindi animated it because it looks like flames as it's like pulsing through the
Yes.
water.
And just the refraction of it.
Mhm.
It's I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Which Gendy does something incredible with water afterwards too, where it's I think it's the Asajj Ventress and the Anakin fight
When they're fighting
where
in the
it's
rain.
raining,
Mhm, and
when
the
they're fighting
rain's
in the
hitting
rain
the
and the
lightsaber and
steam.
it's creating the smoke.
Yeah. Oh man, it's the images from that two episode arc. I think that's also why I love the boots on the ground
Mhm.
aspect of Star Wars, because the ARC troopers in the episode, it was incredible.
For sure. All right, my friend, any other honorable mentions, or should we move to our number one?
Man, the one I'm intrigued about, and I didn't put it on the list because I have not seen it, like a visual of it at all. I'm excited about the Acolytes. Is it for? I forgot her name, but it's like a lightsaber whip.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I am excited to see how that turns out.
Me too.
But I could not put it on the list because I have not seen
Right.
it yet.
But it definitely could be up here in like,
Yeah.
a few years.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So, and I want you to know, my co-host and I, we argue about this all the time. So I'm purposely pronouncing this character's name wrong, and my co-host isn't here, so you can't say anything about it. He's gonna hate me when he listens to this episode. It's Gungi's lightsaber, the wooden one.
Oh, what a call.
Yeah, we've only seen it a couple times, but like it's so smooth. Like I'm looking at it right now. It's it's got the wooden handle with the couple metal bits on it.
What a call. What a call.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like I know it has metal on the inside and it's more of just like a wooden casing, but like a wooden lightsaber is just such a cool concept to me, and they executed it so well.
Oh, that's such a good call. That one completely went over my head.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like, and the like there's just a couple like rings where the wood has been like carved in a little bit. I don't know how to describe that better, but it's just like it has these
the wood
the
wood engravings.
Some really nice detail to it.
So nice.
Yeah, a fantastic lightsaber. And even so I'm looking at the even the metal is like has these lines running through it. Just adds really, really nice detail. Like if I was building my own lightsaber, I think I'd build something like this.
Oh yeah, easily.
But
that's such a good call.
Right, and the fact that it's a Wookiee too that wields it.
Yes. It's that's an incredible choice at number one.
Thank you. All right, my friend, what do you have?
Favorite Jedi, I had to do it. Mace Windu is my number one.
Nice. That was that one I struggled with not mentioning.
Yeah, the purple blade for sure, and then I love the black and gold and silver embellishments on it. I also like love the fact that like you rarely ever see it, but when it's ignited, it means business.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. At least I know there was a lot of other colors included in like the legend stuff, but film-wise, this is the first time we saw a new lightsaber color since Return of the Jedi, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this was a momentous occasion.
Yeah, it was such a momentous occasion. I love the fact that it was Samuel L. Jackson saying, "I'm gonna have purple."
Yeah, he just wanted a purple one, and so he got his way.
There was no story significance whatsoever. It was, I want a purple lightsaber and I want it now. And I repeated that as a kid, and I still repeat it to this day.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I'm looking through it, some photos of it, like we've been talking about the coloring, the black, the gold, the silver. Like I think it uses the silver and black that we see regularly with a lot of lightsabers but that addition of gold just gives it so much like character.
I love the fact, especially with Windu just being so much of a plays both sides of the Force kind of character. To where it's like he doesn't mind letting into kind of like the dark side, like sensibilities, but also having the stoicness and the presence of a master Jedi. So I love the fact that there's black and there's silver and there's gold. It's almost like everything into one.
Yeah.
And it's not afraid to get dirty, but it knows when to be clean.
Yeah.
And then and it knows it stands out with the purple blade.
And I think we should also talk about that, typically in medieval times, purple was associated with royalty. So I think it really sticks out here. Also, you were talking about him not being afraid to get his hands dirty. One of my favorite Mace Windu lines is when he's surrounded by droids and he's like, "At this point in the Clone Wars, I've killed over 100,000 of you, so I'm giving you a chance to surrender."
Man, that man was all about the business.
He was all about the business. So the whole purple thing, he's very regal.
Yes.
And he's very he's morally just to a fault, I think. Which goes into the whole the Jedi Order, they kind of needed to fall at this point, but and I think Mace is when you really look at his character, not just a lot of the Jedi, but he kind of goes into that. I forgot where I was going with this.
I mean, I'll kind of take it a slightly different direction than where you were going with it. Was Tales of the Jedi. We're going back to Tales of the Jedi, but the episode with Windu and Dooku, and basically how they set it up to where one's finding the truth of what happened and then learning the truth of what the senator did versus someone who just kind of was idle and did what he had to do to survive and advance. And when he advanced to the Jedi Council, when he got that promotion, and that's where it's like, okay, I get why the Jedi Order failed after so many years.
Yeah.
I see the complacency. I see the dogma and the lack of understanding and context. Is we have these rules, but we don't know why we have these rules.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think Mace Windu does embody that to a full, to where it's flashy. Oh, Jedi, here we go. But not understanding how things go, and then even him as himself in the battle against Palpatine.
Right. Yeah. But even so, he's still a sick Jedi.
Yeah. Oh, it's still my favorite lightsaber. I've gotten it on multiple occasions. I love the design.
Yeah. It's one of those, again, that just really sticks out. You look at it and you're like, that's Mace's lightsaber.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, great. Do you have anything else on it?
No, I think we've said what we needed to say.
I think so.
About the great Mace Windu.
For sure. Well, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and your stuff?
Hi, so you can find me on Instagram at IamJRictor or at filmproof_creative. That's the company my wife and I have co-founded, and as we work to kind of bring content out there into the world. I also have a podcast to listen to. I run the Last Place Fantasy Football podcast. So if you're looking into dynasty leagues and things with future context, we're going to be your one-stop shop for that. You can find us at Last Place FP on all platforms, including YouTube.
Give me a pitch here. I am not necessarily the biggest football fan. Why What makes yours podcast stick out?
So for us, one, it's just three dudes who love talking about football, and that is going to be the core of our show. We're just three friends who love talking about ball constantly.
Yeah.
But how we center our show is to focus on the future ramifications. A lot of times, especially in sports, we always think about the next season. Well, we love talking about, how can we see this not only with this season, but next season and the season after that. So we talk about contracts, we talk about future implications, and we talk about the inner workings of running a fantasy league where you have to think years ahead instead of weeks ahead.
Yeah. That is really cool. You know, from what I know about fantasy football, that seems like it would be really important information to know.
Yeah, especially because then you can start predicting some moves. It's like, this team is trying to do this, and then that's one step closer for you to help build a dynasty.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to give that name to your podcast one last time?
Yeah, the Last Place Fantasy Podcast.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for jumping on the show today, and hopefully we can have you back at another time.
I would love to. I had a blast talking about our favorite lightsabers, but I had a great time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for listening for the Animal Squadron. This has been MotherGoose, and
may the force be with you.
See you, everybody.